we shouldn't have to say this, but we do. A great example would be Tide Pods. You don't eat the Tide Pods. Uh, so there was, for some reason, whatever it was, all of a sudden the entire internet thought we should eat the Tide Pods. And so it's not candy, it's chemicals. You shouldn't ingest chemicals. That's not, it's bad for you. And so, but we did it, and it's become a warning label, and it's funny now, and we laugh on it because hopefully nobody here don't eat Tide Pods, please. Please, don't. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah's like, nope, never. Good job. That's what I'm talking about. Don't eat the Tide Pods. But there are other warning labels, and some don't make sense. Like this doesn't make sense. The letter opener, Staples letter opener. If you're not 100% happy, caution, blades are extremely sharp. That makes sense. Safety goggles recommended. Safety. Hey, hold on, honey, I got to check the mail. Put on your safety for that. Then there's this one. Duraflame, warning, risk of fire. That's the entire purpose. It has flame in the name. There's a picture of fire. This is what you use to start a fire. And we have to put warning, risk of fire. Somebody bought this, took it home, lit it on fire, and freaked out. Holy crap, it actually worked. And the company was like, well, I guess we got to tell people. It works. It works. Next one. This is one of those dryers. High spin speeds. Do not put any persons in this washer. Do not put any person in this washer. We had to put that on a warning label. And then, of course, there's one, and again, I don't understand this one. Peanuts, natural dry roasted peanuts, contains peanuts and may contain traces of other nuts. What? We know. It says so on there, and it continues on. This is a great one. iPad Nano. Oh, no, this is a go-kart. Requirements for go-karts. The use of this equipment is at your own risk. Even if you are in good health and are physically fit, you could be hurt or suffer a serious injury. If you have a current or old injury, high blood pressure, bad knees, bad back, are pregnant, over 40 years old, or have any other ailment, you are strongly advised to not use this equipment. If you are 40 years old, this is a go-kart. It's a go-kart. I don't care. Anyway, next. And this one. This is at a horse stable. Warning, horses may bite, kick, and fart. There was just a top part of this at one point. Then somebody's walking, oh, what is that smell? You're in a horse stable. What are you thinking? But we had to put up the sign. That continues on. These don't stop. Checking a baby's diaper. Good, now I don't need to change it. What? Who has ever? Then there's this one. iPod Nano. Do not eat iPod Shuffle. Somebody's like, you know what? I really want to rock out to this playlist all the time. Seems a little muffled. And then finally this one, wrong way. This is a highway. These cars are coming at you 70 miles an hour.
Because it's the wrong way.
No, this is an exit ramp. It's going. Oh. This is why. That's not going the wrong way. They're going the wrong way. I'm going the right way. These are all idiots, everybody. You are coming. Look at all these cars. And here's the cars going your way. Here's the cars going your way. Here's a concrete barrier. And here's a whole bunch of cars. And these, again, are coming at you 70 miles an hour. And no joke, if you head north, leaving here on Interstate 81, you will see brand new wrong way signs on the opposite end of the highway that we have put in. They're putting in spikes. That makes a lot of sense. This is why I pay taxes. So we see warning labels all the time. We see these kind of things all the time. And we get, if you're like me, it's like, why? I just get kind of cranky. And we hear about warning labels. We know about warning labels. We see them everywhere we go. And for some of us, we're immune to them. We're immune to warning labels. We don't really pay attention. We think we know best. And we even see and hear about warning labels at church. And we don't call them warning labels. You don't come in and say, we're going to learn about warning labels today. Instead, we talk about sin. We talk about sin. We talk about this idea that there are things in your life that will hurt you if you engage in them. And we call these things sin. Anything that separates us from God, we call sin. So I made this kind of little chart because this is what we all do. I'm going to prop this up. Look at this. Look at that. Some of you guys were real nervous for a second. You forget I'm a professional here. So what we tend to do is we tend to put sin on a scale. We tend to look at sin and we tend to say, you know what? It's not that bad. And then there are things like, oh yeah, that's bad. Shouldn't do that. So we put something like murder. Murder, yeah, don't do that. That is down here. Do not murder. And then we look at white lies. And we say, yeah, you know what? Well, it's not that bad. Like, they're definitely not together. Like, yeah, so it's not that bad. And then there's things like complaining. Everybody complains. Have you been on Twitter? Come on, it's not that bad. It's not that. It's there. Cursing. Cursing. When I'm with my friends, maybe when I'm down, with my parents, it's cursing, disrespecting parents. Now, this is the thing. This is okay if they're jerks and poo-poo heads, right? What? Your mom said you can't go to the movies? I wouldn't even say it's a sin then. Call your mom out. But then, if your mom buys pizza and you're kind of a grouch, what, pepperoni? Then it's like, yeah, God, you can't do that. They got you pizza. It's murder and disrespecting your parents. We talk about stealing. Stealing. Oh, that's bad. Don't steal. Oh, they're loaded, though. Oh, in that case, yeah, they have insurance. That's fine. I stole something really expensive. Oh, yeah, probably shouldn't. But again, not that bad. Drinking. Oh, drinking. Oh, well, I mean, if I'm with my friends, if I'm just watching Netflix by myself, that's probably not good. And this is what we do, right? And we do this, and we do this at church. We say this all the time. Like, we act like sin is on a scale. And we say there are some things that are kind of okay, probably not smart, but nobody's going to get on my case for it. And there are things that are like, cheating on a test, every once in a while, it's not that bad, right? Like, I don't do it all the time, only every once in a while. And it's amazing how we take all these sins and we justify them. And we create circumstances inside of our lives where they are okay. Where it is fine to lie, it is fine to cheat, because, well, I had to cheat because I couldn't study, because I was helping my mom. She's a single parent. We don't have a lot of money. It was just, it's okay. We justify it. And a lot of us are sitting there, we're like, I feel awkward. Is it okay? I don't know. Please continue, Carl. Good, we will. So now, and this is so we have this. We put it on a scale, and then we talk about just sin in general. And here's the thing: we first week we talked about, hey, if you're a follower of Jesus, if you've accepted Jesus as your personal Savior, and you are somebody who wants to continue a relationship with Jesus, that sin, your past, is taken care of at the cross. It is not, God does not hold it against you. God is not out to get you. It's taken care of. And you may be thinking, hey, well, I'm a Christian. I've done that. I'm a follower of Jesus. So Jesus took care of this. So, I mean, what's one more? Right? If Jesus took care of it, what's the big deal? If it cosmically isn't held against me, eternally isn't held against me, if you're a follower of Jesus, what's the deal with sin? Why is it such a big deal? And why should we even talk about it? And Paul brings it up, and Paul tells us in the book of Galatians. And we've been following Paul in this book and talking about it. And Paul, who was one of the very first missionaries, he had an amazing encounter with Jesus and changed his life, totally transformed him. He started going all across the known world, planting churches. And he started the church in Galatia. And when he's there, after he leaves, people come in and they start saying, hey, well, here's the deal. I know Paul said this, but he didn't have the full story. And they started saying, what do I really need to do to be a follower of Jesus? Where's the line? If I'm going to follow Jesus, what do I have to do? And that's kind of the question we're asking today, right? If I want to get into heaven, if I want to be a follower of Jesus, if I want to be somebody who gets to spend eternity with God, well, how good do I have to really be? Do I got to just be better than a murderer? Or do I have to be better than, because I can list a ton of people I'm better than. Where's the line? Where's that line? And how do I know if I'm there? And this is what Paul says in Galatians. He says this: you will always harvest what you plant. Those who live only to satisfy their own sinful nature will harvest decay and death from that sinful nature. Paul is letting us know that sin is something that gets planted in our lives. Something that becomes habit forming. Something that has long-term consequences that you will one day reap the harvest of. And we understand this idea, if you go and you work out every day and you eat right, eventually you're going to look like Captain America. You might look like Captain America at the end of Endgame, but you're going to look like him sometime. If you haven't seen that, just came out on Tuesday. We reap what we sow. What is put into our lives, you reap. So, if you're a person who tells lies, the little white lies, oh yes, your hair looks great. Your butt does not look big in those pants. I'm so excited that you're in my algebra class. Little white lies. Eventually, those build up, and you become a person that doesn't have integrity and isn't trusted and has no deep friendships. It doesn't happen in a week. It doesn't happen in a school year. Sometimes it doesn't happen all through high school. But all of a sudden you graduate college and you realize, I have nobody close to me that I trust, that I can invest in, because the entire time I've been living a lie. We reap what we sow. Paul continues in the book of Galatians, and this is my verse. I want to let you guys know, this is like when I'm down, when I'm having a hard time, when I'm beat up, crying on the floor. It only happens, anyway. This is the verse I go to. This is the one that reminds me to keep going. This is my verse. So don't make fun of it. But those who live to please the Spirit will harvest everlasting life from the Spirit. So let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right moment, you will reap a harvest of blessings if we do not give up. What you plant now determines what you harvest later. What you plant now determines what you harvest later. Which makes sense, right? Nobody is planting a garden with their mom and putting up tomato plants and be like, I am so pumped for this asparagus. Nobody is going out and planting corn and just be like, can't wait for strawberries. You plant corn, you're going to get corn. Agriculture. What? You plant strawberries, you get strawberries. You plant asparagus, you get asparagus. And if you haven't looked up how to maintain and take care of asparagus, it's wonderful. It's my favorite vegetable. What you plant now determines what you harvest later. So if you're a person who is planting, complaining, white lies, cursing, cheating, lack of integrity, that is what you are going to reap later. That's what you're putting in your spiritual life soil. And the people that Paul was talking to in Galatia understood this because they planted and harvested their food. Us, we just go to Aldi's. But these people understood that if I want to have something, I need to plan for it back here. If I want to have strawberries, I have to plan for them right here so that I can have them here. Not you and me, we want strawberries, we just go down to the store and then we complain, these prices are ridiculous. And that's how we need to start thinking about our life. Because what you do today affects your tomorrow. What you do today affects your tomorrow. If you stay up tonight playing video games, surviving Mars, trying to make a Mars habitat, not that I've done this, where all of a sudden you look at your clock and it's 1 o'clock and you have to get up and serve the next morning. That was Sunday. That game is so addicting. So time flies. All of a sudden, if you stay up till 1 o'clock tonight and you have to get up at 6, you're going to be exhausted. We understand that. Let's expand that long term. Let's think about this in months and years. If you want to be somebody who is healthy, who has integrity, who is caring and kind and loving and patient, somebody who is faithful and committed, you need to be working on those traits today. Because those just don't all of a sudden show up because you're 22. The only thing that happens when you're 22 is you have a Taylor Swift theme song. Some of you are like, what? Oh, it's an old reference, Carl. I know. So what do you want your harvest to look like? You're thinking long term, and I know it's tough because high school seems like this black hole. I will never leave Old Forge. The pizza will always be topped with American cheese. There is no hope. There is. Domino's moved in. There is a place you can get. But eventually, you're going to be somebody who has the ability to pour into other people, who has relationships, who has a job, who has people relying on them. I want to ask you, what kind of person do you want to be? What do you want to be true of your life? And those things will not just appear. Integrity doesn't show up because you need it. Integrity shows up because you plan for it. Compassion doesn't show up because you need it. Compassion shows up because you worked on it. Patience doesn't just happen when you need it. Shows up because you worked on it. And you were connected to somebody who builds into it. Jesus. Paul continues in Galatians. He says, those who live only to satisfy their own sinful nature will harvest decay and death from that sinful nature. If you come out planning, I'm about me, can't spell awesome without me. 2 T Swift references, one talk, boom. If that's your plan, you will reap a harvest. It might not be this month, might not be this week, might not be this decade, it might not be this half century, but eventually you will reap a harvest. You will have to deal with death and decay. But there's a different way. There's a different option. There's freedom from that. And there's only one person who can give it to us, and that's Jesus. He says this in John 10:10. My purpose is to give them a rich and satisfying life. Some lives say abundant peace, abundant grace, abundant purpose, abundant hope. That we can have a life that's full of abundance by connecting ourselves with the giver of abundance. Because we all know these things that we shoot for are death and decay. Everything inside of this world falls apart. I have an iPhone. I've had it for 2.5 years. It will not keep a charge. If your goal is to be the techiest person, that will fall apart. If your goal is to be the most beautiful person, eventually you will be Captain America at the end of Endgame. If your goal is followers, eventually they will leave you. If your goal is to be somebody other than who Jesus wants you to be, we hit death and decay, hurt and pain. But instead, Jesus gives us purpose, hope, life abundantly. If we plant poor choices, we harvest poor outcomes. And we know what those are because Jesus lets us know what wisdom is. He gives us wisdom. He gives us purpose. He gives us grace. Somebody who's beyond me. Because, again, this is my heart, right? I could justify anything. Probably even murder. They were really mean and their hair wasn't good. We could justify anything, right? So if I'm going by my good scale, I can make anything out to be good. I deserve an entire pizza in my belly. Then I have a heart attack and I die and I leave Andrew alone without a father. Poor choices. And in all honesty, in all reality, you decide to be somebody who lives for themselves, who justifies their actions, we end up hurting those around us. We've all been a part of that. We've all had friends and family members who've decided to live and go their own way, and we felt the consequences of that. And you are not immune to that because I feel like it. And that's a hard truth. But I want you to understand that your choices will affect you long term. And I want you to know that you can have an abundant life. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy peasy lemon squeezy. My life's not easy peasy lemon squeezy. Lots more lemons, no squeeze. I haven't lived in my own house since June 1st. And I'm really hoping after I come back from vacation, I'll have a home, because I don't right now. Me and my wife couldn't have our own child. We had to adopt. And that was God's plan, but that hurt. That was rough. I grew up in a welfare home with one parent. My dad was never around, didn't show up. That hurt. Following Jesus doesn't make your life amazing, but you have the ability to set your life up for amazing events and for God to show up and just be like, kaboom, amazing! And he does, and it's awesome. It doesn't happen all the time. It doesn't happen when I want. Sometimes I'm at the door and I'm like, kaboom, amazing, and nothing happens. But I definitely know that if I continue to pour bad things into my life, I'm going to reap bad things. Free people know that their now affects their later. Free people know that their now affects their later. So there's a question that you need to ask yourself. Do you want to be somebody who says, I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did. I'm glad I learned how to manage my money when I was in high school, so that when I started making big dollar bills, I knew how to handle it. I'm glad I became somebody who could handle relationship conflict, because now that I'm in a committed relationship, it's helping me out. I'm glad I did. Or do you want to be somebody who says, I wish I had. I wish I had. Free people know that their now affects their later. What you do today impacts your tomorrow. Your choices that you make today will change your tomorrow. So will you be somebody who says, I'm glad I did that? Or I wish I did something different. We're going to head into small group and talk about it.